Welcome to Often Pacing on Tab Radio Racing and Sport. Tim Walker will be joined by Matt Young and Oliver Cownie as they delve into the form for today's Pinjarra harness meeting, as well as an early look at tomorrow's meeting at Gloucester Park. We are Often Pacing.
Welcome along to Often Pacing. Happy New Year to everyone as we welcome back Often Pacing for 2025. Oli Cownie about to join me. We'll have Mitch Miller coming on the show very soon, around about 9:20 as we welcome this new time slot in for Often Pacing. And we can say a very good morning before we look at the Pinjarra and Bunbury meetings over the next 2 days to Oli Cownie. Oli, good morning, Happy New Year and welcome back for 2025.
Morning, Matt. Great to be back and Happy New Year to you, and hope all the listeners had a great Christmas and New Year's. I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into the races today and tomorrow.
Having a look at last Friday's race meeting, we saw a free-for-all and just a mare's feature, which we can just highlight upon. Our Lady Jen won the summer feature for the fillies and mares. Only saw in the articles last week David Anderson celebrating his first win as an owner, metropolitan win, I should say, as an owner with Our Lady Jen, a horse that he bred himself, and she made it 2 in a row. She's been racing really consistently. She just needed a touch of luck on the draw, Ollie, and once it came, the tempo was on to really suit her to be able to close off.
Once they did go too hard, as you were saying, Matt, it's sort of Our Lady Jen was the one that made sense. She's been a horse that hasn't had a great deal of luck in a lot of her races, but she's always finishing off strongly, and she got that opportunity there on Friday night. Blaze Coop's always a horse that gets off the gate quickly and runs along, and I thought Freya, the runner-up, was absolutely fantastic there, and she was certainly a very gallant second, and Our Lady Jen just had that really soft run and was able to power over the top late, but I certainly think Freya in second was the best run of the race, and Princess Katie was really good, covering a lot of ground, running into it late there as well for third.
Yeah, absolutely. Freya was outstanding in defeat on that occasion, and just getting a little bit weary late, but that was expected with the quick sections. And speaking of Jocelyn Young, she was able to get the win in the free-for-all. This was a good race with... She was able to get away with a little bit here, 37.5 lead time with Hampton Banner and 30.5, and then a really solid last 1,200 metres. Swing Band looked a really good position for Swing Band to be in outside the lead, and you could see Cole Semmington was quite happy to be in that position. He thought he was in the controlling section of the race, but he just couldn't quite gather Hampton Banner back in. Laverageau sitting at the tail of the field. Once the sections went through that first lead time in the first quarter, it looked nearly impossible for him. He ran into some bother late. What were your takeaways from a really interesting free-for-all tactically, and Hampton Banner back to his absolute best form?
Just that brilliant gate speed again from Hampton Banner to get across pretty easily from a wide gate there. He'd probably lost his way for a little bit there, Hampton Banner, and you wondered a little bit where he was at. But, gee, recently he's been absolutely outstanding. He's barely run a bad race, and there again in a pretty decent free-for-all field, he's been able to lead and win. He did control things, as you mentioned, and got a pretty easy first half for that grade, but he was still good enough to hold off a very classy horse in Swing Band. You know, we'll never know with Laverageau where he would have finished, but I'd say, given the way he looked to be finishing off, he would have gone very close in the race, but he didn't get that opportunity. But it does look like he's a horse that's going particularly well now, and it looks like he's going to be a player in some of the feature races coming up.
Yeah, exactly right. And looking at that meeting from Friday night, we need some horses to follow. So who are we putting into the black book going forward?
The first one I had to follow was out of race 2. This was a really interesting race, and there's a few nice horses going around in this, in Instigator, and a few horses that have sort of been around the mark in Metro type races. And I thought the run of Illawong Mustang, who had his second run for the Michael Young stable there, was fantastic on Friday. Really had to work just too hard in the end to get to the front. They went 28 in that first quarter, which is just too fast, and into a 29 and into a 28 again. And he was only beaten 5 metres in the end, which I thought was a fantastic effort. Lamandia, he's been around the mark in metro races in recent starts, he was able to win that race, and Galaxy Warrior was a really gallant second. So I certainly think the form out of that race will be good enough for Illawong Mustang to suggest he can lead and win a race very soon if he's able to control it a bit more than he was able to on Friday there. Out of race 6, I thought a horse that was returning here for a new stable in Mr. Fantastic for the stable of Ryan Bell with Carl Symington driving. I thought he really loomed into it quite powerfully on the bend, and for a moment I thought he might be able to win the race. He's a horse with very high speed. He's a really fast horse, so I think he probably is quite well suited to stand starts where he can be sat up in the early stages and use that really nice turn of foot he's got. So I think there's definitely a race he can win soon. Carrera Mac just got the beautiful run and was very well driven there to find leaders back in the race, and he was able to win. And I certainly thought Miles Chevron was another horse that was really good in that race. But my horse to follow is Mr. Fantastic, and the third horse I had to follow was Cordero in race 8. He's a horse that's actually quite well served under national rating system. He's only rated a 60. He's only rated a 69, which is quite a low rating for a horse that's been in free-for-alls almost all of his career. So I certainly think he's a horse that can find a more suitable race than even the one there on Friday, which was probably a little bit easier than the ones he's been taking on. He just got too far back in that race, and he was closing strongly late, but he just had too much to do there. So I think if he draws a gate in a slightly easier race, he can certainly be one that pops up.
Okay, so Illawong Mustang, Mr. Fantastic and Cordero, the 3 to follow from Ollie on the performances on Friday night. I'm going to throw into the mix Lord Titanium. I thought Lord Titanium was really good coming from back in the field. He was beaten 11 metres, but I just liked the way that he closed off in a quick last half. And I think nearly every run he's put in this preparation has been very good. So he's come back in fine fettle, and he's on a lowish sort of mark, so I think he'll be able to win one soon. I like the way Master Leighton hit the line just behind them. This is another one that can go back to easier grade than what we saw on Friday night, and I think Master Leighton can run a really good race in his next few. He ran up behind a brick wall at big odds, and Sugar Apple I thought was really good in being able to lead and absorb a lot of pressure and then finish the race off solidly. So those were the 3 that I've marked out of Friday nights to be able to carry on forward, and that's leaving out Freya. But I think, as we mentioned, Ollie, Freya's a horse that I think most people saw from Friday night, and she's going to go around favourite. I do agree with Mr. Fantastic. I thought he was a really good effort on Friday night on his return run, so there was a bit of specking for him at longer odds in that race. It was a really competitive standing start. So Lord Titanium, Master Leighton and Sugar Apple for me, Illawong Mustang, Mr. Fantastic and Cordero for you. There's 9 races at Pinjarra today that we can look at, and we need to be able to identify it down to 3 main betting plays. What races are you looking at here for the Pinjarra meeting today?
I was keen to kick things off at Pinjarra today in race 3, and this is certainly a horse that's had a few chances throughout its career. This is a restricted wins race, so you can probably say the same for a few others, but I was really keen to be with Eileen May here. I thought It's Okay to Be Grey would be really hard to beat in this race, but he's now been scratched, so I thought Eileen May could get the lead, could really look to control things in this race, and there doesn't look a great deal of pressure. There doesn't look a lot of horse in this race that'd be able to do work and be at the finish. So I certainly think Eileen May will be really hard to catch if she's able to lead and control the race. She just went hard in the race to run back and was beaten by a pretty smart horse in My Silver Spoon. So I certainly don't think that's the kind of knock, and I think most of them beaten pretty big margins behind him as well. So I was better there, was only beaten a very small margin, and I think she can just look to go one better here and win. I think the biggest danger is definitely I'm Grafter, who will be on her back, and that's a horse that's been really improved in recent starts and could certainly be a danger if the tempo suits for that horse. So I'll be looking to play exotics around those 2, or even spec I'm Grafter if it comes up a big enough price. The next race I was keen to play into was race 5. That race, I thought there's definitely a few chances in this, and the top few go quite well. Then You Came Along is a really nice horse and has taken on pretty strong company. Ultra Lure is another one that has plenty of speed, but I was happy to be with Arian Rock. I think this horse is flying at the moment. Last 2 runs have been fantastic. The run 2 back came from last in the run and was really powering home behind Charco Eagle, who's quite a nice horse in the making. He's really quite a progressive horse. And then last start was another run where it was a very strong field, was beaten by Soho Skyfall and Cabochon, but I think those 2 horses are as good as anything in this field, and they got home 28.5 into a 27.7, which is really a sharp last half. So I think to be making good ground in that last half, we'll see him well served in this race. I'm not too sure how it sets up from gate 6, but I think he could come up an each-way price, and that'll be how we played, and hope for some luck and some tempo on there. And then in race 7, I was keen to just spec 2 in this race. I was keen to follow up on Mickey Windermere. I think this horse was really good last start to Babylon, did all the work. They went pretty hard, and he just got tired there in the concluding stages. So I certainly think he was entitled to there. He's now 3rd run in his career, so should be better for those first 2 efforts and can find a good position up on speed. And if he can do that, I think he'll prove really hard to beat in that race. And then I was also keen to be with Arise Lazarus, who I think will be a really big price in this race. And his run was super last start. He actually ran past a rival in this race, Hold Your Fire, who does draw better again. But I think Arise Lazarus could be suited by a strong tempo in this race, and if he is, he'll be coming home quite strongly there. So today I was keen to be with race 3, Eileen May, and potentially saving on I'm Grafter. Race 5, I was keen to be with Arion Rock on an each-way basis, and race 7, I was keen to have something on Mickey Windermere and Arise Lazarus.
Okay, so there we have it. Eileen May on a straight-outs basis, Arion Rock on an each-way basis, and Mickey Windermere as the main play and a save on Arise Lazarus in the junior drivers event. I'm playing races 2, 7 and 9 here. I was very keen on Chief Copy. I think we've seen this horse win a West Side 2-year-old feature, and he's just got a lot of promise. I thought his gate speed's going to really come into play here, and he's going to be hard to beat in race number 2. So I was keen on Chief Copy. Liked his last start run. It was off the track. He was a little bit wayward in the way home. So I do like the chances of Chief Copy here. Elizabeth H is coming in off of a recency bias of a win, and also the strong Nathan Turvey stable, which is obviously has to be respected. But I thought Chief Copy could get the job done here, and I'm hoping that he might just have a little bit too much class. So that was race number 2. I agree wholeheartedly with you in race 7 that Mickey Windermere can run a really good race. I thought this horse could get a really good run throughout, and if the pace is on with Pinjarra Rocks, who can get a little bit keen, then Mickey Windermere really comes into play. And I too was impressed with the last run, 158.7 in the breeze. It was a warm day, so the times are going to be a little bit quicker, but I thought both performances have been full of merit, and this horse continues to improve off the trials into the races, and it's a nice draw. I think Mickey Windermere can run well. And in race number 9, I liked Great Boulder, he's always a risky type, Great Boulder, but I thought from the back line draw, he could just find his position early. He's got a huge amount of speed, and I think Denny Roberts will just let him loose in the final circuit, and I think he can be too hard to hold out late. So Great Boulder in the last. Mickey Windermere each way in race number 7, and I thought Chief Copy straight out in race number 1. That's looking at the meeting today at Pinjarra, which gets underway at the time of 12:45. Bunbury tomorrow, they've got 8 races, with the first coming up at 4:17. I'm playing the bookend races. Race 1, going with Raja Rocks, who ran into a little bit of bother last start, but that was against a race where we saw it's just a shot away win. And Yawoma was really good in defeat on that occasion. So Raja Rocks ran into a little bit of bother in the concluding stages, and then was still able to sustain a good run and finish 3rd. Bumps into what I think will be likely favourite, Princess Michaela. But in saying that, I think Princess Michaela's been racing a bit easier opposition. Raja Rocks got a really good turn of foot. I think the draw is going to put him close enough, and he'll be very dangerous. So race 1, number 9, and race 8, number 8, Saganda, looks really hard to beat for mine. I think Saganda could nearly sit anywhere in this field and gather them in. Was going to play a real significant role on New Year's Eve before running into a bit of bother. I think the options are there to be able to work off the pegs at some stage and be very hard to beat. So Saganda looks really hard to beat for mine. So race 1, number 9, Raja Rocks, and race 8, number 8, Saganda are my 2 to follow going forward to the Bunbury meeting tomorrow. Ollie, how did you see the meeting?
I was keen to have something on one in race 5. I think this is a really interesting little race. We've obviously got Raynette returning, who is a very smart horse, but I was keen to have something on the Kukuri, who I thought was fantastic first run this campaign at Pinjarra. It was a reasonably strong race, and this horse just raced away and scored really easily for a maiden, and then last start was faced by the breeze and battled on really quite strongly there behind Lucky Copy. And I think this horse could come up quite good value. Aidan De Campo's obviously chosen to drive Lucky Copy in this race, so we might even get some better value on the Kukuri. And I think this horse is better suited to a bigger track, which we have here at Bunbury. He's run at the track before and performed really well behind some nice enough 2-year-olds in that race. So I think in this 3-year-old race, the Kukuri can come up good enough odds for us to play something like 1/4 or 1/3. I think that'll be a really good way to play it. And then in race 6, I was keen to be with one which I think is quite well suited by the NR system in Joe with the Flow. Draws a really low gating here, and his second run for the stable of Donald Harper. So I think he's got good enough gate speed to get across Stellar Edition, who isn't noted for having much gate speed. And if he's able to do that, then he certainly has options from there. Have You Met Ed might be one of the main dangers in Uwoma, who's drawn very awkwardly inside the back row. I certainly think for mine, Joe with the Flow looks clear third pick and can definitely run a place there and can be a potential knockout winning hope.
Okay, so race 5. This horse has had more different pronunciations of its name than race starts, but I think Aidan De Campo told me it was the Cookry or something to that nature. So we'll just say Aidan's horse in race 5, the Cookry, number 5, who looks to be a reasonable value there for Ollie. And race 6, number 2, Joe with the Flow, is a very good front runner and does get into this race quite well. Race 6, number 2, Joe with the Flow. Ollie, thank you very much for your time. Knights of Thunder and Trotters sprint on Friday night, so it's going to be some speedy action. Looking forward to that. Thank you for your time this morning, and we'll chat again to you next week.
Thanks, Matt. Looking forward to it.
And we're going to take a short break here on Off and Pacing. Mitch Miller, the other side. Welcome back to Off and Pacing. We're about to be joined by Mitch Miller, who's got some nice drives today at the Pinjarra program. He joins us now. Very good morning to you, Mitchell.
Good morning, Matthew. It's almost a full book, so it'll be a busy day.
You've got first drives in race 4, Soho Shakedown. He's a horse that you've got a lot of time for. He's first up coming into this race. What's the confidence levels and what is he showing behind the scenes to suggest a potential winning return?
He's probably a few weeks away from sort of being anywhere near his top, Matt. Sort of the options were we either went to trials or just sort of Kim saw this race come up, and he's not a West bred, even though he's only just turned 3. He's a non-West bred, so we don't have to sort of chase the 3-year-old bonuses. So it looked a good assignment for him, and hopefully he hasn't sent the mobile for a little while, but we did know before that he has electric gate speed, and hopefully that's enough to get him across the fence, and he should be forward enough to get the distance pretty well, and it'd be good to have him back.
Race number 5, Icy Cold. You tried to hold the front 2 starts ago with her, and she capitulated, and then was a better run last start, 3rd. You come into this race with horses like Then You Came Along, Ultra Allure and Roman Legion, even Arian Rock, and think with the draw and her speed, you can maybe drive her in a bit more of a conservative manner. Is that how you sort of approach this race today?
Yeah, definitely, Matt. We gave her one chance to drive her like the best horse in the race, even though we probably knew that she wasn't the horse or capable of doing that. But when you sort of get in a race like that, every now and then you've got to roll the dice and ask the question. And we got our answer, and she's definitely not as good as what maybe she's done in the past. But I think she's got the good draw advantage. She should be able to hold up nice and comfortable early, and with horses, like you say, when you come along in the race, we'll be quite happy to be leaders back. And if she can hold on to run a place from there, we'll be happy.
Race number 7, you're not driving in this race because you're not a junior driver anymore. That's a long time ago. Pinjarra Rocks is a horse that you work closely with and you've driven in his career. He's a bit of a fiery character, this horse. He's got an abundance of ability. What's the thoughts with him going into this race? And do you think that he'll be able to settle enough for Aaron Savelko, who's been lucky enough to be able to drive this favourite?
He might think he's lucky pre-race, but depending on the horse's manners, he might not think so afterwards. He's definitely been a work in progress. An early 2-year-old, we thought he was sort of something out of the box and something pretty special. And unfortunately, just his manners let him down. And this time back in, he's been a long way off the mark, sort of fitness-wise. But we sort of wanted to get some racing into him, sort of while he was a bit underdone, hopefully, because his manners have been really well behind the scenes. And the two runs back so far, although visually they probably look a bit disappointing. Behind the scenes, we know that he's been quite a fair way off the mark fitness-wise, but his manners have been. He's still got a little way to go, but a massive improvement of what he was as an early 2-year-old. So, like you said, he's wearing a bit of gear at the minute, which hopefully, with the experience, we'll be able to take off him in due time. But he's actually been settling pretty good for me in the run. Even taking a sit last week, he was pretty good. So hopefully he's on his best manners for Aaron today, and it should be a good pickup drive. And if he's lucky enough to get the win, it'll be pretty good form going into a maiden next week, being a last start winner.
Absolutely right. And in race number 8, you're driving Fireplay, who we know this horse has got plenty of speed. It can do things wrong from time to time, but if he was able to show his speed at the start and get across to the top, do you think over the lightning lap he could be really hard to beat?
Yeah, I think it's his first attempt at these lappers, and I think it should be right up his alley. He has known to be a little bit weak, sort of in the run to the finish when he has been burnt off the arm from time to time. But one lap doesn't give him too much excuses of failing to run out the trip. So usually, as long as he makes the green light, he's usually pretty good. It's getting to the green light or release point that'll have your heart in your mouth sort of situation. But look, when he's on his best behaviour and we do put one on his bum out the gate, he is pretty quick, and he's another one where I think if he did happen to find the rail and not have to do too much, I think he should be pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, looks like a decent book today. Not exactly a full book, but a decent book for you. So all the best to you today. What's the best drive for you?
Hopefully we get off to a good start, Matty. I'd love to see Shakedown get the money. He's definitely one of my favourites at home, and it's been a quiet week, so I need the cash. A few winners wouldn't go astray, and hopefully get the new year off to a good start.
All the best today, mates, and we'll chat again to you very soon. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Matthew. Bye-bye.
There we have Mitch Miller joining us here on Off and Pacing on this Monday morning. That is the show for this morning. Thank you very much for your time and joining us. Thank you to Jesse Earnshaw behind the scenes, helping us with what is a busy day here on TAB Radio heading into a race day. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back again next week. And don't forget the Knights of Thunder heats this Friday, as well as the Trotter Sprint. And so plenty of good racing action going into Friday night, as well as Bustleton, and plenty of good racing over the weekend. Good luck and good partying today at Pinjarra. But for now, it's a very good morning here on Off and Pacing.